welcome back to A Method to the Madness, the weekly podcast where we discuss, analyze, and otherwise ponder our favourite films and television. I'm your host Patrick, and joining me, as always, is my co-host Mitchie.
Hello!
And this week, we're covering the 2005 film Brick, written and directed by Rian Johnson. This was his debut film, I believe.
Yeah.
Starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Was this his first film? I don't know.
Is it? Surely not.
I know he was in like a sitcom before this, like as a child actor, but
Nah. Apparently his first shit was in 92.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But it was probably like some, I don't know, like he played a tree or something.
Yeah, probably.
Also, the release date, interestingly, you say 2005, but it's technically released in cinemas, I think, in 2006, but it was released at the Sundance Film Festival in 2005. And like January 2005, that's when it was released. And then it didn't get released into cinemas until April of the next year. It's kind of weird. So depending on how you look at it, it's either year.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard for festival films.
Yeah.
As always, we'll go around and get our general impressions of the film. Mitchie, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so it should be known that neither of us picked this film. And,
yeah, that's right.
That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying. But we did our La La Land podcast last, and our guest David was the one that decided for us to do Brick, and we're like, oh yeah, well cool, we'll get someone else to decide for us. And I'd never heard of this film, obviously, because he's the one that decided it, and I didn't know if you knew much about it, Pat. But
I had heard of this, but I didn't really know what it was about.
Yeah, no, I'd never heard of it. I didn't even, but so I watched it and I had no idea what I was diving into, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it greatly, to be honest with you. It was kind of, I don't know, for me, it's going to sound really bad, right? It's going to sound bad, but like, low budget shit is just hard to watch for me. Like, yeah, it's just like, when I like movies that are cinematic and they feel fucking immersive and like a movie, right? And it's easier to make a movie like that the more money you have, unfortunately. Which is why I love 1917 and Interstellar, because they're so immersive and they just make you feel shit. But like when you get to down to the low budget shit, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad at all, but it's certainly more difficult to make it immersive because you got your camera work isn't as good. You can't hire a 5-star orchestra to compose your score, and you can't get the best actors out there. Although Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a great actor, and he was in this too. But and to me, that's kind of like what put me off. I kind of felt like it did feel like it was on a budget, which it certainly was when you look at the stats, like $450,000 that Rian Johnson raised himself. He didn't get it from anywhere. He had to fucking use his own pocket money and borrow money from his friends and family.
I'm sorry, how much?
$450,000.
Out of his own pocket?
and friends and family. Yeah, he borrowed money from family and shit because it's just like I appreciate the passion, but like, I don't know. I mean, it made money at the end of the day. Like, it made $4 million, so it returned like 8 times. So that's pretty good, but like, it was a bit of a gamble. Like, oh mum, can I have like $100K for this movie I want to make? It should make money, but if it doesn't, your $100K is gone. And like, it's like
you got to be pretty confident as a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's a weird way of gambling. But I did appreciate the movie, actually. Like technically, knowing that it was on a low budget, I thought the camera work was actually quite interesting. Like, you could tell it was low budget, but it was also really clever. Like, when the car's moving really quickly, it seems sus. And when you read about it, they just filmed the car going in reverse or something like that, and then just reverse the film. And then it made it seem like it was going really fast on the film. But you can't kind of tell when that car was moving fast, like there was something not like quite right about it. And I thought the music was quite plain, but I didn't mind it. Like, and I guess we'll get into it and you raised this point, but the genre of this film is sort of like a noir. And to be honest, I don't even know what a fucking noir is, really. All I know is that Blade Runner is a noir. And the fucking music in this reminded me of Blade Runner. I shit you not. Like, that fucking honky-tonk piano, it just reminded me of Rachel playing the piano with Deckard, and then she gets raped. But
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
No. Sorry, yeah, but yeah, but no, it was alright. Like, you know, the best part about it for me was the mystery it built, and I was kind of like, yeah, like I really want to know what the fuck is going on, and I didn't end the movie knowing exactly what was going on, but it certainly kept me going. This idea of the mystery, like where is she and what's going on, and what do you think?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Now that you mention it. I think I've been in denial this whole time. Being a film student, I've always been really amazed, and I really appreciated low-budget indie films like this.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. It doesn't have the same level of immersion as a movie with a proper budget.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing about these movies, these independent films with a low budget, especially ones that are clever, is that they point at themselves, right? And this movie does... It points at itself with all the fingers in the world. Because it's this whole movie is like a riff on a lot of different things, mainly noir films. But like, and you know, it's kind of bland in that way, I thought. But then again, I do appreciate the understanding and appreciation of like the things it is riffing on.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for example, I like that it's a noir story set in a high school setting. Like this kind of it's kind of like frivolous in a way. Like you don't think you should take it seriously, but all the characters do.
Yeah, I couldn't take it seriously. That was my problem with it.
Yeah, and it's strange, right? Like, he really commits to the diegesis of this film.
Yeah,
and actually, there's where was the quote? Oh yeah, so Roger Ebert, he's like a really renowned film critic who passed away 7 years ago, I think.
Really?
He said about this film, a spoof would have been easy. Instead, Johnson plunges off the deep end, risking ridicule by shaping the spellbinder with grit and gravitas, which I thought was a really apt way of describing this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. As I said, I like that it's, despite it committing to its diegesis, I did think it was very on the nose. And its attempt to evoke those old-timey noir tropes, such as all the characters talking with this really fast and snappy dialogue. Yeah, as it emotionally distanced me from the world and from those characters. So, yeah, the immersion wasn't really there. It was more just like I get it, like constantly throughout the film.
Yeah, yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's acting was superb, as always.
I love him. He's great.
As I said, bland visual aesthetic, I thought. Although, in its defense, it does convey an emotionless quality about it, which flows with the feel of the main character. So, I can see the connection there. I think overall it's a solid arrangement of competent filmmaking and a grasp of genre conventions, but it's just not a particularly deep film, is my main qualm with it, and therefore it doesn't really entice me to rewatch it.
Yeah. No.
The main thing about it is the mystery, and then once you get the actual plot and what happens, you're like, okay, yeah.
Plot summary.
Yeah.
Shall I read the plot summary?
Yes. Can you take us through that, please?
Cool. Totally written by ourselves. Set in high school yet stylized like an old detective movie, this intriguing film follows our hero Brendan, a high school student who prefers to steer clear of the cliques and crowds and their wild shenanigans. That is, until his ex-girlfriend Emily is found dead in a storm drain only 2 days after receiving a frantic and confusing call from her on a payphone. Determined to find out what happened to her, Brendan has to sift through the upper-class elite of the high school students, including the jocks, stoners, and seductive drama students. Brendan gets involved in an internal feud of a drug ring, discovering that his ex-girlfriend was killed because she was framed for stealing a brick, the colloquial term for a block of heroin dealt by the drug dealers. When Brendan deduces the framing of his ex-girlfriend, he ends the drug feud by setting up the dealers, having them arrested. End of story. Brick, 2005/6.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mitchie, you mentioned that you're not quite familiar with the conventions of what a noir is.
Yeah, nah, can you tell me? Because, pretty sure you tried to tell me during Blade Runner, but Blade Runner sucks. That's all I get. So,
I'm just going to move past that comment. The film noir, as it's called, is a notoriously vague genre. And it was a genre that only existed in film. Once that came around, and it was mainly started, I believe, by two films, each starring Philip Marlowe, I think is the actor. The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep. The two most famous detective noir films.
Yep.
And then I believe that, and people didn't call it noir at the time. They just had this very unique aesthetic. And then in the French New Wave, which was this revolution of cinema in France in the 60s, I believe.
Yeah.
It was only then when they noticed these qualities about those two films, and they replicated that. Yeah. These bunch of French filmmakers replicated that for their own films, and then only then was it given a name called noir. And then it came back to America, and then American filmmakers started like using the French films, which is using the American films. Anyway, so the conventions of noir, typically, for sound, it has a melancholy downbeat jazz score.
It explains the honky-tonk piano.
Yes.
I thought Rian Johnson just was cutting on the budget there and couldn't afford a piano tuner.
Yeah, no, that was probably deliberate. Probably worked within his favor.
Yeah.
Is a use of quiet and silence, sudden noises. There's usually a voiceover or like a narration from the protagonist.
Right.
And sound effects of ambience of the city and suburbia.
Yeah, okay. This all sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Fucking narrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of Harrison Ford now.
Yeah.
I wonder if she was going to live.
Yeah.
For the visuals, low-key lighting, Dutch angles, low-angle shots, mirrors. Usually in films, it's characterized by darkness, which this film strays from. This film is actually the majority of it is shot in daylight with natural lighting, which is interesting.
Yeah.
A big one is that everyone is always smoking in a noir film.
Right. Are they in this?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of smoking in this film.
Oh, I guess the fucking symbol is on the cigarette thing that's thrown out the car, so...
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. One of the first motifs is a cigarette. If you, in those two, in The Big Sleep and The Maltese Falcon, there's the detectives always smoking. Do you remember, if you remember in Blade Runner, there's fucking smoke everywhere. Yeah. The Big Lebowski, which is a spin on noir films, everyone is smoking joints all the time instead of cigarettes. Right. So it's a kind of like comedic spin on that. Yeah.
Yep.
As for story conventions, so there's always a hard-boiled detective with a sordid and mysterious past, and he's always reluctant to get dragged back in.
Yep.
Yeah. So
hard-boiled is its own literary genre, isn't it?
It's
like kind of a subset of noir. It's like noir where there's a fucking detective in it.
I think noir is always meant to have a detective in it. It's always meant to be a detective story, like a mystery.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hard-boiled is someone who... It's a detective that's like... I don't know. He's kind of like not the greatest hero. You don't love him, but he kind of fights organized crime and shit. Or something.
Hard-boiled is meant to be like grisly and like... Yeah. He's seen some
like
shit.
Like an anti-hero.
Kind of like a sympathetic, like apathetic hero, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of an oxymoron. I mean, it's sympathetic to the audience, but the character is apathetic to everyone around him, is what I mean. Yeah. As per this film, the main character is pretty much that. Yeah, so, and another big one is there's always a femme fatale, which is a trope where there's always this mysterious, seductress type woman that's always hiding something.
Yeah.
And they're usually very enigmatic, and usually they shack up with the detective protagonist, and usually they turn out to be the culprit.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Are all ablaze with ever-living glory. Not deny his majesty. He scorns to tell a story. He don't exclaim, I blush for shame, so kindly be indulgent. But fierce and bold, in fiery gold, his glory's all effulgent. I mean to rule the earth, as he the sky. We really know our worth, the sun and I.
So hang on. What the fuck happened? I'm still okay. So that chick, the one that was playing the piano, and the baddie. Laura, whatever her name is.
Laura, yeah.
Laura? Yeah. So she was the one the whole time I was behind everything, like behind the death of the ex-girlfriend and stuff. She was the one that framed her, right?
Yes.
Is that what it came down? Because not the actress girl.
No, she... Oh, I forgot. What was her role? It was like... she was also a bit of a femme fatale, but fuck. From what I remember, Laura, she was like cutting the brick, like the 9th brick, and stealing a bunch of its cocaine or that whatever
Heroin.
that. Yeah, it was like a deliberately vague drug. And then I think because Emily had some sort of drug problem, that she framed Emily to make it look like she stole the drug, and then the kingpin went after her, I believe.
So they just killed her for stealing.
No. So, and then I think that fucking dude, the tank top dude, like the muscle guy.
The one that looks like he's 15. Like, I can't take it seriously. Like, fucking hell.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this movie's strange.
But isn't that the point? Like the bigwig guy, the guy that's dressed in black, like some fucking like vampire slayer or some shit, or one of them like plague people from the 1600s. Like, fuck, he was dressed weird. But anyway, like he like at one point his mum gives him juice, right, and it's kind of like almost like taking a piss, like like they think they're cool, but they still live with their mummies and daddies. But then at the end of the day, they're fucking killing people, and he just blows that guy's brains out because he got angry because he was potentially the father of the fucking, because the ex-girlfriend turns to have like slept with half the school or some shit, and everyone could be a father by the sounds of it. It's kind of what I got. But like they do kill people, and it's just like I couldn't take it seriously. Like it just didn't. It couldn't be reconciled with the fact that, those two things, like, it's just two different worlds, like these hardcore, like, drug dealer killers, but they're fucking high school students. Like, it was difficult.
It was this weird, like, push and pull of abstract, but also gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I don't know. I liked that scene, though. Like, it was...
Which one?
The bit where his mom pours juice for him, because up until that point, there's, like...
Yeah.
You know they're high school students, but the film doesn't address it, and that's the first point where the film actually addresses that. Yeah,
but that's what I mean. They're still killing people, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's art, man. Like it doesn't need to make sense.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, that's such an excuse you could throw out there when I've got a problem. It's art.
Yeah. It's you can't say anything to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
You got me there.
Yeah, I can't remember what the role of that actress chick was, the theater one. Yeah, well, that's actually another convention of noir films, is that they're always like super convoluted plots. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not the only one that thinks this is sort of convoluted.
Yeah. No, that's
not very clear. Like, not clearly explained. It's the plot once you actually read it is not that convoluted, but the explanation and execution of it is a bit confusing.
Yeah. Another convention is that flashbacks are a common device used to develop the main character as well as narration.
Yep.
And as I mentioned before, everyone has this really fast, really kinetic way of talking, where it's one person finishes their sentence and then the other person immediately starts talking, and they know they know exactly what they're going to say. Do you notice that? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, especially, it's most prevalent when he's talking with Brain.
Yeah.
And he's like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
and
true.
Brain's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how those old-timey Philip Marlowe films went as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were deliberately trying to evoke that, but again, it was just strange. It just took me out of it a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not looking for a patch up. Em's life is her own, but she asked for my help.
Help with what?
I don't know. I don't even care. It's not my business. I just want to know she's okay. So we're gonna find her. That's all this is.
Well, I know she's been poking in with Yavi-bound cheerleading elite Laura Dannon's crowd.
Laura Dannon there on the link?
And Brad Bramish. Cream on the upper crust. Anyway, M tagged after them for a bit, but it didn't work out. She picked her way down the food chain. Last I saw, she was with, what's-her-name, the drama vamp. Small-time dealer. The evil one, the one you dated. Care. That's my boss.
You know her locker number?
Cares? M269.
Thanks, Brian. Keep your specs on. Find me if she shows.
You know that was filmed in 20 days?
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty tight. Like,
yeah, they spent 3 months rehearsing. They spent 3 months rehearsing, but the film itself was only shot in 20 days.
Interesting.
That's pretty fucking quick.
I once shot a 10-minute film that took about 5 days. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've never shot a film, but shooting a whole film in 20 days seems a bit quick.
Yeah. Maybe they were trying to get that same feeling of everything being rushed, so that they would get into character better.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Perhaps.
Some directors do that. Stanley Kubrick, looking at you. But
yeah. Well, a lot of directors do weird things to motivate their actors, like fucking Ridley Scott.
Yes, yeah. So, I mentioned these already, but so noir is kind of like a film student inside circle kind of shit. Cinephiles love noir, and so a lot of films are spins on it. Yeah, I don't know, like it because I guess it's because it's uniquely filmed.
Yeah, but fuck, like, you know, when we recorded our intro podcast, and I might have said something along the lines like, "We're not doing fucking indie shit because I don't like indie shit," you know, and like I'm not being offensive, you know, I just don't like low budget indie shit, like I said already, but this just noir is kind of one of those things where it's kind of like only like hardcore critics like it, but no one else likes it. Like normal people don't like it. Like, you know, like why do they have this? Why do they gravitate themselves towards it? Like, I'm fucking looking at Blade Runner. Like, that is not a good movie. And like, people who like it are, you know, you? Nah.
Yeah, I was, where are you going with that?
Yeah, I didn't know how I could say any of that without offending you. Since you
Interestingly, I didn't know it was a noir until much later on after I started liking it.
Yeah.
Which, for me, it works as a film just on its own. And then I found out that it has all these noir conventions, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It didn't really didn't really have an impact one way or the other about, you know, my opinion on the film. It was just like, okay, that's interesting.
Righto.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let's not get into Blade Runner, but yeah, what is it about noir that people like, or critics like, cinephiles like?
Honestly, like, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of like it's hard to explain like why they would like it, but it's sort of like the best analogy I can come up with is like when some fucking art critic likes a piece of art and you look at the art and it's like a splodge of fucking red with a splodge of blue next to it, and it's just sitting up there in the fucking Louvre, and you know it's worth $1 million, and they're like, oh, this is fucking art, it's the best shit ever, you know. And this is kind of what these movies feel like to me, like only the people that truly critiquing and really into that stuff like it. But I don't know if what's really going through their head is that they truly do like it, because how the fuck do people like splodges of red and blue on a canvas, you know? Some people do. So, yeah.
It's appealing on like an intellectual level.
Yeah, but it's almost like just snobbish.
Yeah,
it's almost like, oh, I know shit about film. That's why I like this film. But you wouldn't get it. So you don't like it because you don't get it. And then you kind of shut down by that. And you're like, oh, okay. So I clearly don't get it then. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it is snobbish. It like there's like the barrier of entry that's like really high.
Yeah,
it's like very specific.
But it might also just mean that it's a bad film. But you know,
actually, your painting analogy reminded me. This one time I went to a museum and there was a painting that was like a canvas. It was just orange. It was just a plain like same gradient of orange across this whole campus, and the painting's name was Orange, and it was in this fucking museum. And I was like 10 at the time. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
wait, really? Just orange?
Just orange. Like it was a very bright orange, to be fair.
What museum was it? Like,
oh, I don't know, some museum in like Melbourne or something.
Fuck. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. But you see that and you're like, what the fuck is that? but it's up there for a reason. So
yeah. That's actually something I wanted to talk about too. Does this film work in a vacuum? Does an appreciation and understanding of the history of film and genre conventions be needed to experience this film properly?
Right.
So, and this seems to be...
if you don't know what a noir is, can you enjoy this film?
Yeah, well, actually, let's travel further in the future in Rian Johnson's career. Let's look at his latest films, Knives Out.
Yeah.
His latest film, Knives Out. It seems that the merit of this film works best when you are comfortable with your murder mystery films. You know, usually there's going to be a slew of suspects, all uniquely
like
suspicious.
Cluedo shit.
Exactly, yeah. Wait, isn't that a board game?
Yeah, but like I just thought of Cluedo when I watched Knives Out.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people did.
Yeah, I think there was like a movie that came out a while ago, like in the 50s, that was...
Cluedo.
I don't know if it was called Cluedo, but it had like It was like the classic.
Who done it?
Set in one location in a house.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a recurring
It was like
thing.
It was like an Agatha Christie novel or some shit, you know.
Yeah, actually, that's Agatha Christie is probably a good example of that kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and, you know, like, I think most of us are familiar with these conventions, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all the suspects are uniquely suspicious in their own way.
Yep.
And then, usually, it'll be the one that you don't expect. You know, that'll be
Captain
the
America.
suspect. Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah, it was Captain America.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, yeah, that's right. But or maybe that character was so egregiously innocuous that it's baiting you into thinking that it's them, but really it was someone else the whole time. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and in the case of Knives Out, it starts out, you know, you see Captain America, he's looking suspicious and arrogant as fuck, and then you think, of course it's him.
Just call him Captain America.
Yeah, I'll just call him Cap for short.
Yeah.
You know, you see him and you think, oh, fucking look at this dickhead. Like, it's probably him. And then the movie goes on and develops his character a bit more. And you think, oh, okay, maybe it was just baiting me into thinking that it was him. But really, he's a nice guy. And then at the end, it subverts that again. It's like, no, it was actually him the whole time. Yeah. And so it's like this constant, like, you know, gotcha moment throughout the film.
Yeah. Didn't we watch that movie together?
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah. That was a good time.
Yeah. So, you know, you could probably still enjoy it as it is, even without any prior knowledge of murder mysteries.
Knives Out, you could. 100%.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
So, but that's interesting, right? Like, what is the middle ground between, like, riffs on existing art and committing to, like, a story in a vacuum or, like, a diegesis, you know?
Making it fucking entertaining. That's the fucking middle ground there.
Yes. That's such a vague... make it entertaining.
Well, but like, okay... More money. Like I'm trying to reduce this. Fucking Knives Out had a higher budget. That's why it was more enjoyable. No, I don't know. But obviously, people who watch Brick and then Knives Out, they'll be like, Knives Out is way better, way more interesting. Why is that? Because on just a very holistic, not holistic, but overview of it, it is more enjoyable. It's kind of, it's more dynamic. It has a plot that's easier to follow. It makes more sense. You know, like it's funny. It's got action. Brick kind of just felt like a lot of talking. Plot's vague. Action wasn't good. But it's hard to say whether that comes down to the poorer budget, the lower budget, or it's actually because it is just not that entertaining. And I honestly think like the plot of Brick is just a little bit more esoteric. It requires kind of like, you know, only certain people will like the plot of Brick and the way it pans out, even if it did have a high budget. But Knives Out is kind of a different thing. Like, I don't know. It's just that middle level is middle ground is kind of like how entertaining it is. And I know that's a vague term, but like truly, like that's why a lot of people don't like Blade Runner, because it's fucking boring. Which even you admitted. You fucking admitted that. You said that the first time it was boring. So. You know, that's got a bit of argument, you know.
I don't ever recall saying such a
fucking
profane statement.
I'm listening to our Blade Runner podcast again. I'm pretty sure I could pull it out of there somewhere.
I'm pretty sure
I edited it, so I definitely would have put it in there.
You said it was boring, and I said that's fair. I never said that I thought it was boring.
Nah, I'm pretty sure you said like the first time when you watched it as a kid, you thought it was a little bit boring, but then it got better the second time.
Oh, yeah. The first time I watched it, fuck yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. It's like, and that's what I mean. I feel like Brick maybe like even though you said you wouldn't watch it again because kind of a lot of it's taken out because the mystery, you know the mystery, so why the fuck would you watch it again? But I feel like the true lovers of this film, the kind of cultists behind Brick, would watch it multiple times and they'd enjoy it more every time because they see more shit in it and kind of draw more conclusions.
Yes, I think I agree with you for everything except Blade Runner. But yeah, Knives Out is generally just a more entertaining film. I'm glad that Brick exists for those people who do dig this shit. You know, it tickles their, you know, part of the brain where they get to exercise their film knowledge and history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, you know, Knives Out probably.
Oh, 100%. Fucking yes.
Yeah. You know, I feel like we're fucking slandering this film so hard. Like, I like this film. Don't get me wrong. Like,
you want to like it because you just want to see it like those cultists do.
Like how you're calling them
just
cultists.
be like, they're fucking cultists. Like, I try to be nice, but really, I didn't enjoy this film that much, and I'm not jumping on the fucking bandwagon of cultists. I just didn't think it was good. There we go.
That's fair.
That's fair. Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, that was not a very retaliatory statement. I wanted more argument from what I just said, but anyway.
Well, I was referencing my response to your Blade Runner thing. Pretty sure that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good at diffusing tension like that.
Appearances and to keep him by from the pin who you were hooked with. When Emily came to you and Brad, you saw her for what she was, an insecure little girl trying to get in. She goes on the back burner. Meanwhile, maybe you're getting bored. Or maybe just greedy. But when the pin scores big with the bricks, you take your shot. You hook one, take half, cut it back to size, but you cut it back bad. Maybe accidentally, maybe to down the pin's operation, doesn't matter. You put it back. Poor Frisco doses off it and lands in a coma. So now the pin's fuming. Maybe he's jealous of Brad, so he comes to Brad's crowd looking for blood, or at least escape. You'd be in trouble. There's gonna be a war over this. Here's Emily. She trusts you. She wants in.
And then, I don't know, I guess lastly, this kind of relates to Star Wars in a way. Like, I guess within the context of the new trilogy, you could see what he was trying to do just with the episode 7, and then, you know, what he did with episode 8 was kind of like try to take it in a whole new direction. But it's ironic because it seems like Johnson he either hadn't seen any other Star Wars films prior to this, or he was like a huge fucking diehard fan and he really wanted to propel it to this like new level of, you know, cinema, but he just failed on like the biggest drastic level. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. He was like, with the context that we have now of him making Brick, Knives Out, and directing the Fly episode of Breaking Bad, like, man, what a poor choice to direct Star Wars. Like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't know why they picked him. He hasn't even done much shit. Like, you know how many movies he's done?
How many?
Like, after Brick, the ones that actually matter. Before Brick is just like high school short film shit. He's done 6 films. Sorry, 5 films, and apparently there's a second Knives Out coming out, which I only just like literally just then. I can't believe there is. But yeah, so Brick is like his first directorial debut feature film, right? And Looper was actually not a bad movie, and that's by him, which I didn't know.
Yes, I remember that. I remember at the time I was just like, wait, you're telling me that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing young Bruce Willis? They look nothing alike. How the fuck are they're going to pull this off? Like, but they did. I mean, to their credit, like, after he got his eyes changed to blue, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I kind of see it. Anyway.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, 5 films. And you know, he's got a good, like, 3-4 year gap between all his films. He hasn't done much shit. So, yes, to direct Star Wars, it's kind of a bit weird going from J.J. Abrams to him. But, yeah, I don't know. He's an interesting director.
Yeah, no, he is. I appreciate him. All right. I think we'll wrap it up there. Mitchie, do you have any recommendations for this week?
Yes.
You don't, do you? Oh, you do?
No, I do. I got fucking mate. I'm the one that has the recommendations.
I am the one who recommends.
Yes. Well, I watched a film recently, and it's sort of related in the same sense that it's quite a low budget, cheap film, you know, but it had Ryan Gosling in it. And, you know, I've been on a Ryan Gosling streak. Love him. It's called The Believer. I think I talked to you about it.
Yes.
2001. Yeah, it was basically like American History X 2.0. It was, Ryan Gosling has a fucking, like, electrifying performance in this. He is really good. And he plays a neo-Nazi who's secretly Jewish. But obviously the neo-Nazis don't actually know he's Jewish. And, man, it was good. Like, it was just kind of like very provocative movie, and you know I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but like you know, you can kind of see what would happen to a Jew being a neo-Nazi, but like, you know, it was just so good. It was really interesting, and you learn a lot as well about like Judaism and stuff like that. It was great. Would recommend if you're after, especially if you like Ryan Gosling. He's
interesting.
Yeah, no, I'd recommend.
Okay. my recommendation is actually a film that I haven't seen, but I know that it is a noir. In
Not
our
Blade
Logan,
Runner.
No, well, if I could recommend Blade Runner a million times over, I would. But in our Logan podcast, we talked about the stages of an evolving genre, and one of them being a demythologization. So there's this film called Chinatown, I believe, with Jack Nicholson, which is a demythologization of the noir genre.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is supposed to be very good. I see it referenced all the time in storytelling, like books on storytelling and stuff like that.
Yep.
Also, like I saw the new Batman trailer recently. That seems to maybe be more inclined to a noir film, or like it's dipping its toe in the noir scene, possibly.
No.
I mean, Batman has always sort of been a noir kind of figure.
True.
Like he's a detective in like this in the city with a lot of angular shadows and shit.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, we can't really recommend a movie that's not out yet, but
yeah,
sure.
as if I need to recommend that. Like everyone's gonna go fucking see it anyway. So
Yeah. True.
Yeah. Cool. Where can people find us, Mitchie?
People can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, or Stitcher. Not Twitter.
Yep.
I was going to say Twitter. We don't have Twitter, unfortunately, but we do have Facebook and Instagram. Find those pages on our website at amttm.com. And if you have any further questions about our podcast or anything we say, mail@amttm.com is our email address.
Cool. And what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are doing Birdman, right?
Yes, sir.
Directed by
Alejandro Inarritu.
Yes, the 1917 before it was cool.
I'm sorry,
right?
what?
1917 before it was cool. The fucking, let's have the least cuts in a movie.
Oh,
as possible.
right. Yes. Yeah, I totally forgot. That was
it 3 cuts or 4 or something? Or was it more like 7 or 8?
Yeah, I think there's like a few, at least like 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty keen to do this one. I haven't actually seen it, so.
Oh, dude, you're gonna love it.
Am I? Ooh.
I don't know.
Let that be on the record.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, stay tuned for that. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.